Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 11th of June 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So for those who missed and for those who aren't in the Discord channel, the Daily Gwei Discord channel, there's currently a giveaway being run there where you can basically win one of these Beacon books. And for those who don't know, the Beacon book is an initiative being run by this platform called Statefulworks, and the book is a collection of perspectives from 46 Beacon chain researchers and implementers wrapped in delightful graphics here. So there's one being given away. All you have to do is be on the Daily Gwei Discord channel, give the post in the announcements channel a thumbs up, and follow the Stateful Works Twitter account here. The winner will be chosen on Monday. So yeah, definitely enter this and enter this kind of competition here for this book. You will be able to buy this book at a later date, I believe, but it is a limited edition. So if you want to own a copy, you can go in the running to win one there, or you can buy one later on. But, you know, I think it's very, very limited. So definitely want to maybe try your luck at this giveaway. And not only the Daily Gwei, but there's a bunch of other communities doing it too. So obviously like Bankless, the ETH Finance subreddit, Gitcoin, POAP, things like that. So definitely go check that out as well. And speaking of the Discord channel, I will be doing the usual AMA tomorrow. So at 11 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is early morning US time. And I think that is the afternoon in Europe, or the early afternoon in Europe. But don't fret if you can't make it or you miss it. It'll be recorded and uploaded to YouTube shortly after the AMA is completed. But if you do have questions you want to ask, you can ask them either live on the AMA, or you can put them in the AMA series channel on Discord, which you can find obviously in the Discord channel there. And I encourage you to do that if you can't join, so that your questions can get answered. But anyway, moving on from that for now, I did want to give a quick shout out here to StarkWare, who are looking for people to work for them. Now they're kind of looking for very technical people, where but based on this tweet from Uri here, who says that if you're interested in zero-knowledge proofs, know about compilers, heard of Cairo, and you're interested in StarkWare's Turing-complete zero-knowledge proof language here, DM Uri for an exciting effort on this front. So yeah, if you have those skills and you want to work for one of the best teams in this space, definitely give Uri a DM here. So Aztec Network, the kind of like privacy network here, announced today that they're going open source. So they kind of like says here that Aztec initially released some of their prover code under the Polaris license jointly created with StarkWare. And today, which I think was yesterday now, they announced that all future releases of code from Aztec will be under the Apache 2.0 license here. I think I've discussed this before about open source licenses and how there's a multitude of different ones. Like, for example, Uniswap v3 is open source license, but there's also kind of like a limitation on the code. It cannot be used by anyone except the Uniswap team and whoever Uniswap gives permission to use it to, but it's still open source. Now, this isn't just another license here, the Apache 2.0, and there's a bunch of other ones out there as well. That kind of people, I guess, like attached to open source code for various different reasons. I mean, I think MetaMask has one as well, where MetaMask is open source, but they have a license where that if you have more than, I think, I guess maybe 10,000 users or something like that, and you want to fork MetaMask, you have to actually pay for the privilege to do so. So yeah, and obviously these kind of things are put in place to both protect the work that the teams put into this, and also make it so that not anyone can just copy the work and kind of like monetize it any kind of like big way. So yeah, and I've seen debates about this before, about these different licenses, and I think I discussed this on a recent refuel where I said that where people often say, oh, it's open source, you should be able to copy it and do whatever you want with it, and it's like, yes, that is kind of like true to an extent, I guess, but there's the spirit of open source and there's like the literal kind of like definition. The spirit is that with open source, you're able to kind of like fork it, contribute to it, make it better overall. But if you just take the code and then monetize it some way by attaching a token to it, well, that's just not cool. That's just not in the spirit of open source. So I think that's why Uniswap has done what they've done with V3. I think in particularly a reaction to how SushiSwap played out and how PancakeSwap played out, where they're all just forking Uniswap and obviously using all that code and kind of attaching their own token to it. Now, in saying that, SushiSwap obviously at this point in time has differentiated themselves and is building a bunch of different products. But, you know, there's still a reason why V3 has that license attached to it. Whereas this Apache license here, I'm not sure exactly kind of what it entails. You can read basically, I guess, like here what it's all about. And this will be linked in the YouTube description. But yeah, I think this is just them adopting a fully open source approach. So they want, and they say here, the Aztec team says here, they want their community to not only use and integrate with their tools and technology, but also to modify it in the best way that fits their needs, which I think is pretty cool here. So this seems to be a pretty loose license, which is cool to see. And Aztec are building really cool things. You can basically play around with what they're building at zk.money, which is their layer 2 privacy rollup, and they have a lot more kind of like things coming down the pipeline from what I know. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing Aztec evolve here, and congrats to them to getting this open source out there. So Polygon announced today that they are kind of starting up this initiative, or maybe it's existed around already, but they're kind of like ramping it up here, called the Polygon Advocates. So it's your chance to take Polygon to a whole new level. So essentially what this is basically a way for you to, I guess, like apply to this Polygon Advocates program here and become part of like the community. So they've got a few reasons here why you should become a Polygon advocate. You get exclusive access and a chance to work with the Polygon core team. You can become the face of Polygon's decentralized community, receive support to grow your local Polygon chapter, and many other things here. So basically, I guess a Polygon advocate would be just an evangelist who gets to work closely with the Polygon core team and gets to work closely with the community and do a bunch of community related and maybe even marketing things here. So definitely, if you want to be part of this, go and kind of like, I guess, fill in the forms here. I think there's a form here, yeah, application form. This will be linked in the YouTube description, of course. And I've been saying before, like, how there's lots of different ways to get involved with projects. And I've talked about this, plenty of times where I said you can just join a Discord channel for various projects, ask what help they need, and they'll tell you, and they'll compensate you for your work. Whether it be from the DAO, or maybe, you eventually get hired by the core team and work with the core team. But there's also these sorts of community advocate programs and, the grants programs that I've talked about as well. There's so many ways to work within this industry. I mean, Gitcoin grants as well, and, bounties and things like that, I think there is really a spot for everyone. And as I've mentioned plenty of times in the past, you don't have to be a developer. You do not have to be technical. There are so many non-technical roles out there. And this is one of them, right? Becoming a Polygon advocate. You don't have to code, you don't have to build kind of like really technical things or whatever. All you have to do is be a community and marketing person and be like a promoter of the Polygon kind of network here. So yeah, definitely go check this out if this is interesting to you. There was one other major Polygon related announcement today as well, that where 0x has announced that they are partnering up with Polygon to bring 1 million new users to 0x powered apps on the Polygon network. So there has been $10.5 million in joint funding allocated to the community 0x DAO here in this initiative, which I think is really cool. This is like, I guess, like sharing resources here. So and this goes back to Polygon's DeFi for All fund that I spoke about, where they were putting hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Matic into DeFi projects. So Polygon has put $7 million worth of Matic into the 0x community DAO, and 0x Labs is contributing another $3.5 million in 0x, taking it to a total of 10.5 million here. So this is basically to get more people kind of using 0x on Polygon, building on Polygon, making it so that the integration runs deeper. I'm sure there's a bunch of other things to be done as well across the marketing community side of things too. So definitely, if you're interested in 0x or Polygon, this might be something that you can get involved in. And I think you can go on their governance and research forum here and kind of like get involved this way as well. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely go check that out. I'll link that in the YouTube description for you. So a really interesting tweet from Cyrus today on Twitter, where he said, imagine if El Salvador used 1/3 of its GDP to market buy BTC and burn it every year. Well, that's exactly what EIP 1559 does, but for ETH. Now, I want to talk about a few different things got to do with 1559 today. And I'll start with this tweet and I'll move on to something that I've been seeing people talk about. So this tweet is really funny because when you think about it, Ethereum is its own kind of nation, I guess. And it's a global nation. It's not tied down by borders or anything like that. It's not tied down by kind of like you don't have to have a passport for Ethereum. I mean, your passport is essentially your Ethereum wallet. To be part of this kind of nation, all you need is an Ethereum wallet, really, at the end of the day, and some ETH, of course, to pay the kind of gas fees. So from that perspective, Ethereum can be viewed as an economy as part of its nation, right? The Ethereum economy, where you can kind of look at the burning of 1559 as the kind of like reinvestment of, I guess, like the nation's kind of, I guess, reserve asset, which is ETH in this case. So it's not it's not like literally reinvestment where the gas fees are being reinvested into like infrastructure or into some kind of fund. It's not like taxes, which are, the government obviously has in their war chest and just deploys as they see fit, but it's actually just redistributing it all to ETH holders, because the less ETH there is in supply, naturally over time, the price of ETH should go up and all ETH holders benefit from that, obviously. So that's one aspect to kind of 1559 here that I wanted to talk about. But the second one is that I'm seeing a lot of people kind of, I guess, talk about, well, gas fees are low now. Is 1559 really going to make a difference? And gas fees are low for many different reasons. I've seen some people try to push this narrative that gas fees are low because people have moved to other chains and no one's using Ethereum anymore. I think that is just like false, because generally what we're seeing, I guess, and I've written about this in the newsletter before, and I've talked about it on the Refuel, we're seeing, I think, three major factors or three major things as to why the gas prices are low. I think by far, the biggest is the fact that the market has cooled down. Now, if you look at what a lot of the fees were kind of being paid on, it was Uniswap. So I think Uniswap was taking up 35% of all gas on Ethereum. Now, what do people do on Uniswap? They trade tokens. Okay, so what happens when you trade tokens? Would you do more of that in a bull market, or do you do more of that in a bear market? Well, of course, you do more of that when the market's hot. So obviously, as the market is hotter, there's more trading going on, there's more arbitrage opportunities going on, and there's more gas fees being paid. That, to me, is a very obvious thing here. The second thing, other than the market cooling down, is the gas limit being increased. So we increased the gas limit, and that did kind of help a lot with the gas fees. Initially brought them back down to under 100 Gwei. Now we're hovering at about 10 to 20 Gwei, so it's a lot less. But I think that those two things coupled together, obviously, the market cooling down and 1559, the gas limit increase had a big impact here. But on top of the gas limit increase, you also had flash bots, which takes the obviously a lot of the transactions out of the public mempool and basically goes into a dark pool, and the fees are paid directly to the miner. Now, with 1559 implemented, these fees can still be paid directly to the miner, but for the miner to include the flashbot transactions in a block, they need to pay ETH as the base fee and burn ETH. So even though it might not show up in the on-chain kind of metrics because it's being done off-chain, that burned ETH will show up now, because at the moment we can't see literally, like we've got estimates, like there's a Flashbots dashboard, but cryptofees.info isn't going to show you the fee revenue from Flashbots, so you have to actually add that in. So if you do add that in, it makes the fee revenue kind of like a bit better here. And then or a bit higher than what it is today still. So I still think we're at like $6 million over 24 hours on average. If you add Flashbots revenue, it's probably maybe another 1 to 2 million on top of that, I would say. Maybe even more than that. I haven't checked lately, but it would take us up to, about 8 million, say. So that's still 8 million, or at least not all of that is going to get burnt. Say 70% of that, which would probably be like 6 million or something. So about 6 million of that will end up getting kind of like burnt here. $6 million of ETH a day still, and that's during a quiet market. Now, in saying that again, just because gas, I should have mentioned this when I talked about the gas limit being higher. So just because the gas fees are lower per user doesn't mean that in aggregate they're particularly lower. Because with the gas limit increase, we can do more transactions. So if there's more transactions on the network paying lower fees, well then in aggregate, the fees are still kind of net higher. And I know that transactions on the Ethereum network have come down. I'm going to go through this on the data pump video that I'm doing, which will be out this weekend. I am going to stick to that. I promise you that it'll be out this weekend. But those have come down as well. I think we peaked at like 1.6 million transactions per day. Now we're at 1.1 million. So obviously it's come down. And I think that's due to the market cooling down, but I also think it's due to people moving to scalability solutions. Definitely Polygon has seen a huge surge in activity. We've had some of the layer 2s see a huge surge in activity, and this is just going to continue. Something like Arbitrum as well that is going live very soon in a public capacity where users can use it. People are just going to migrate across, because even at 10 to 20 Gwei, it is still much more expensive than it's going to be on these layer 2s, on these kind of other scaling solutions like the Polygon POS chain and stuff like that. So from that perspective, if you take all of that in aggregate, it's not just because people move to different kind of like chains or different scaling solutions here. It's it's a number of different factors. So, and I do think that in 155.9 is still going to play a big kind of part in ETH's value accrual narrative and kind of like burning a lot of ETH. And still, we're going to get to, I mean, when the market heats up again, gas prices are going up again. It's as simple as that. And as I've discussed before, what ends up happening is that when gas fees are high, they kind of price out the lower value transactions, and the higher value transactions are the ones that will kind of like be being done on the network. Now, what is the highest value transaction that you can think of on the Ethereum network? I've said it before. This is like a pop quiz. I've said it many times before. The highest value transaction is a zero knowledge or an optimistic rollup proof being kind of posted to the Ethereum chain. Excuse me. Sorry. The reason why it is the highest value transaction is because a rollup proof has all of the transactions from the rollup on inside of it. So potentially thousands of transactions worth, whatever it is in terms of value settled in it. So those are the highest value transactions. And obviously these rollups need to pay Ethereum for its security. And if they don't do that, then they don't inherit Ethereum security. So that's also a big motivator there. So taking all of that in aggregate is why, I guess, like the fees are down, and it's why I don't think it's bearish for 155.9. I do think that when the market heats up again, the fees are going to go up again, so that's going to be good. It's better that we have 155.9 implemented than not. Even at like 10 Gwei, like average, it's still going to be better than not having it implemented. So hopefully that clears up a bit of the maybe things you've been seeing on Twitter. I know I've been seeing it lately about why gas fees are low, what the implications are for 155.9 here. So yeah, hopefully I was able to help with that. So Sushi, I guess 0x Mackie from the SushiSwap team is teasing something here that is coming out on the 20th of July, 2021. I don't think it's Arbitrum, as someone asked here in the comments here. This is already a done deal. Obviously, Sushi's been kind of talking about Arbitrum for a while. I'm just scrolling through the comments here to see if anyone mentioned anything. I don't think so. I think they're just teasing this. No one really knows what it is. So, announcement of an announcement, obviously, but still, I guess, like hype, right? I mean, I know that there's a lot of SushiSwap fans out there, a lot of sushi holders. I mean, you can see from the engagement on this tweet, obviously a lot of fans here. So I'm very curious to see what this is. And they're teasing it quite early because the 20th of July is still, 40 days away or something like that. So it's not exactly close. So, usually, I mean, I'm using my marketing background hat here, but usually when you tease something, you definitely want to do it closer to the date so people don't forget about it. But maybe they are kind of like teasing just the start of it now, and we'll be kind of like rolling stuff out and leading up to that date. So, I mean, yeah, I just translated what 0x Mackie said here. I just said expect us. So, let's see what happens here. I'm excited to see kind of, what they're teasing here. I'm sure it's something really hype. The SushiSwap team always tends to deliver here. So, curious to see how that plays out. So another kind of like, I guess, tease is from Banteg, from Yearn here, who's teasing a new vault called Wrapped Ultrasound Money. And this is on the chain ID 137. Now, for those keen enough to spot the chain ID here, 137 is the chain ID of the Polygon POS chain. So this is going to be a new vault on Polygon. I think this is the first Yearn vault that's going to be on Polygon, I think. I don't think they're on there yet. And this is Wrapped Ultrasound Money means that it's going to be a new ETH vault. And, Banteg answered definitively here by saying, yes, it is going to be a new kind of ETH vault here. So I'm very curious to see what this is, because typically when you want to earn a yield on just your like plain ETH, you would do, a bunch of different things. I've discussed before how you would put it into a money market protocol, borrow stablecoins against it, and then go and yield farm with stablecoins. That has become less lucrative these days. Yield on stablecoins has collapsed because the market has gone quiet. For those who don't know, the majority of the kind of like borrowing power for stablecoins comes from people wanting leverage and wanting to basically lever up during a bull market. Now that we're in a quieter market, people don't want to do that so much, so the yields are dropping there. The other way to earn yield on your ETH is by going into the Curve ETH ST pool, which has incentives on it. I think Alpha Finance has an ETH kind of like vault you can use there. But again, that is also powered by people kind of like wanting to leverage up and demand for leverage. And then, of course, there's staking as well, which is paying about 6.8% last time I checked APR there. But you can't access that until the merge. So, there's a trade-off there, of course. Or you can basically use one of the kind of custodial providers or something like Lido and get your ST ETH and still be able to get that return. But it's kind of like, I wouldn't call it like totally centralized, but it's definitely not trustless or anything like that. So it'll be good to see what they come up with. I think the previous ETH vaults that Yearn had were basically just like leverage vaults where they would automatically put that ETH into Maker, draw DAI, put that DAI into Curve, and then kind of like stack the yield that way and basically stack ETH for you that way. And that's what I'm actually really interested in, is the ETH denominated return. Because if you do what I said just before, I should mention the All ETH vault that's coming out, AL ETH vault that's coming out from Alchemix, hopefully this weekend as well. But we're not like totally sure on the details of that just yet, but that's another kind of way there. But what I was saying before about kind of like borrowing stablecoins against your ETH, that is not an ETH denominated return because you're returning against a stablecoin, so you're being paid out in stablecoins. So if you're yield farming, say USDC, you're going to be being paid out in USDC here, and maybe you're farming some other kind of tokens or token incentives. So those tokens will be being paid out to you. So you would actually have to trade the USDC and the tokens after tax, because it's income tax, to ETH. Whereas an ETH denominated return means that you're still going to have to pay tax on the ETH when you claim it as income tax, but it means you don't have to do those extra trades or whatever. It just basically gives you a return in ETH. So we'll see if that's the case with this vault. Maybe it's not, because from previous vaults on Yearn, it has been definitely like just an automated stablecoin farming vault. But still, I'm very curious to see what they cook up here, and I'm glad to see them kind of launching something on Polygon here. So Jonathan Nash kind of teased this video that you can see here of apes versus Meebit. Now, I got to play the video here for you from like the start. And for those who are listening in, you won't be able to watch this, but it's basically, I guess, like an augmented reality kind of render of a Meebit versus a bored ape in kind of like a boxing match you can see here, or like just a general fight, which I thought was pretty cool. And, I guess this is what I'm talking about when I talk about like the metaverse and things around the metaverse, and kind of like bringing to life NFTs at the end of the day and adding utility to NFTs. So you could imagine, games like this just basically being made for mobile and having NFTs attached to them where you can collect characters and battle them out and do whatever with them. Kind of like a, Street Fighter or like a Mortal Kombat or something where you can actually own the characters. You can own the gear, you can change their outfits, whatever. We already have a lot of this in the traditional gaming space, but when you bring this to crypto and you add NFTs and kind of like add all this monetization into it and this play to earn that we've seen played out, pioneered by Axie Infinity, I think that's where stuff gets really wild. But, just like everything, I think that the NFT space, as I mentioned before, went through its mania and now it's cooling down. But I think that during this cooldown period, a lot of interesting stuff is going to keep getting built. And a lot of interesting stuff's going to keep getting deployed. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But I always love kind of like watching these. I know these kind of videos are just proof of concepts. I've kind of, I guess, like showed some of these before, I think. But generally, this is how it all starts. You start with a proof of concept, then you move on if there's enough attention on it, and then you get users. And then if it becomes like a widely used product, you get product market fit, and you keep building on it, sort of thing. But I do think eventually when a lot of these kind of, I guess, companies who make mobile games with in-app purchases clue into NFTs, they're going to come in a big way because it's just another way for them to monetize. But the thing about NFTs is that it kind of like allows anyone to build these kind of, I guess, like games and monetize and kind of like levels the playing field, I believe, as well. Because you can just see by Axie Infinity, that's a brand new game that's been, it's not brand new anymore, but it was like a couple years ago, I think. And they've been growing their community quite nicely, and they actually have a really great and big Filipino community where those people in the Philippines are able to earn a living wage by playing the game and selling items to people from all around the world. So I think that is going to be the future of gaming and NFTs, or a big part of it is that play to earn aspect. So I'll link this video in the YouTube description. You can go check it out for yourself. So the Index Co-op has posted their March to May Treasury report that's now out. So the highlights are strong month-on-month gross profit growth here. You can see here that the DeFi Pulse Index generated 100K per month in revenue for the first time in April. And you can see kind of like the Index Co-op gross profit has been going up very bigly, I guess, like during April. This doesn't cover, this covers May as well, I think. So you can see April and May here, obviously big kind of like revenue growth there. big profit growth there. And then you can see the gross revenue by product shows growth as well. The Fly series is obviously a massive success here. So for the flexible leverage indexed ETH and BTC, you can see the ETH one has $347,000 of kind of income being generated for the co-op in just March, April, and May. And you can see the growth here has been kind of cool. I mean, to see, like, look at, in March it was only 9,400, in April it was 60,000, in May it was $277,000 of revenue. Same with DPI here. The DPI revenue isn't as isn't as lucrative as the Fly has been, but still very chunky growth, very chunky revenue on kind of slower growth here. But that's because I think the DPI has been around for longer, and DeFi has also been in a bit of a, down market for quite a while. So not many people are interested in buying the DPI, but I think that'll change over time. I think indexes in general are just things you set and forget. You don't worry about what the wider market is doing. So yeah, I always love looking at these kind of reports. There's much more in them. I mean, you can go view this. It'll be linked in the YouTube description. But generally, I like looking at these treasury reports. The index Corp isn't the only one who does it. I think, Yearn has been doing a lot in the past. Aave, MakerDAO. There's a bunch of different projects doing it now, and it's just always good to see kind of the numbers, because everyone goes on about, DeFi's the future, DeFi's big, DeFi's this, DeFi's growing, but once you actually quantify it, you can see like what the true numbers are, how much growth there actually is, and what the different protocols look like when compared to each other. So yeah, I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check it out for yourself. So finally here, we have Gitcoin and the open source collective teaming up to essentially fund the open source collective. So this is a brand new way to sustainably fund open source, and this is open source, I guess, like outside of the crypto ecosystem. And they're using quadratic matching to do so. So this was obviously something that was pioneered by Gitcoin. You can see here that you can fund traditional open source using the, I guess, like matching kind of quadratic matching mechanism that's used as part of Gitcoin grants. I think this is so cool. Like, I mean, open source software is huge, absolutely massive in the kind of like non-crypto space. It has been for a very long time. But traditionally, it has been very, very hard to monetize open source or to get funding for open source. With Gitcoin, one of their core missions is to essentially fund open source in perpetuity and be able to fund it so that various developers can actually earn a living off it. So say you can earn like a salary off just Gitcoin grants. That is the kind of end goal here. And they're going beyond just, crypto kind of open source, but going into the traditional Web 2 open source here. And you can see some of the names you might recognize here, like CubesOS and Gulp. I'm just looking at the ones that I recognize from my brief stint as a developer. Obviously, the Tor project, everyone knows about that. So you can kind of like fund all of these things. And speaking of the Tor project, they also did a NFT sale too. So the crypto ecosystem is kind of coming up with a bunch of different ways to fund these things, the things that traditionally haven't had funding. So I think it's just really cool to see, the mechanisms that came from crypto be applied outside of it, because a lot of people criticize crypto for being very insular, being very circular. So if we can break that and break that kind of, I guess, like narrative, it's good for everyone. So if you want to donate to your favorite open source software that is not crypto, I guess native here, definitely go check this out. It'll be linked in the YouTube description. But I think that's it for today, everyone. So thank you again for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Discord. Subscribe to the newsletter. Sorry. Join the Discord channel, and be sure to join the AMA tomorrow. But if not, I'll see you next week on next week's Refuel. But keep an eye out for the Daily Gwei data pump as well, which will go live this weekend. I promise it will. But yeah, until then, thanks everyone.